Namaskar, I am Milind Pan Patil, Director, National Water Academy, Pune. Uh, a warm welcome to all respected senior officers from Ministry of Jal Shakti, Department of Water Resources, River Development, Ganga Regeneration, Central Water Commission, Central Water Engineering Services, officers, retired officers, then officers from the State Irrigation Water Resources Department, then officers from the Valmis, Central PSUs, State PSUs, then educational officers from the educational institutes, then officials joined from the media, then NGOs and other parts of the country in those who are working in water resources sector. National Water Academy CWC Pune started a webinar series on international cooperation in water sector of India. Now today is the sixth session in this webinar series, and our today's topic of this webinar is India Bangladesh cooperation in water resources on transboundary common border rivers. To deliver or to speak on this topic today with us, Shri Sambariya. He is presently working as a Senior Joint Commissioner in Flood Management Wing, Department of Water Resources, River Development and Ganga Regeneration, Ministry of Jal Shakti, New Delhi. Before hand over this session and start this session, I will first briefly introduce to our today's speaker. Shri Sambariya is officers from Central Water Engineering Services, Group A of 1919 UPSC batch. He is holding bachelor's degree in civil engineering from Delhi College of Engineering, Delhi University. Shri Sambariya is having core expertise in planning and design of various irrigation as well as water resources projects structures, mainly as a barrages and canal. During his tenure at Central Water Commission at New Delhi, Shri Sambariya was involved with technical consultancy related works pertaining to irrigation diversion structures, that is barrages and canals. In this context, he was associated with some of the major barrages in India. For example, Anandpur barrage in Odisha, Dolai Thabi barrage in Manipur, Kalsi barrage in Tripura. Right from their conceptual planning stage to the construction stage, he also worked for a brief period in Narmada Basin Organization, Regional Field Office of Central Water Commission at Bhopal, wherein he was assigned a task of hydrological observation and collection of data at various CWC stations in Narmada Basin, including commissioning of new gauge and discharge station. During his tenure at Ministry of Jal Shakti, he has been actively involved in monitoring and implementation of Ganga Water Sharing Treaty in 1996, convening of various bilateral meetings with Bangladesh under Joint River Commission framework, deputation of Indian team at joint hydrological stations at Harding Bridge in Bangladesh, apart from the regular operation and maintenance related technical works of Farakka Barrage project. Before joining Central Water Commission in year 2001, Shri Sambariya also worked in fertilizers and chemical Travancore Limited at Cochin and Airport Authority of India at New Delhi. Now I request our today's speaker, Shri Sambariya ji, kindly start your session, please.
Good morning to all participants. Thank you, Pan Patil, for giving me a opportunity for presenting this presentation on the India-Bangladesh cooperation in water resources on transboundary common border rivers. Pan Patil, I hope I am audible to all participants. Please confirm.
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, thank you. So, in this presentation, we will briefly discuss the historical background, the Constitution of India-Bangladesh Joint Rivers Commission, and the areas of cooperation that the JRC is working in. We'll discuss in detail the Ganges Water Sharing Treaty, its monitoring and implementation mechanism. Then we will discuss the prioritizing other transboundary rivers for the preparation of framework of water sharing agreements. We will also discuss in brief the events that led to the framing of draft agreements on Teesta and Feni rivers and the events thereafter. Then the MOU signed on Feni River in 2019. Another MOU signed on Kushiara River in 2022. Then we will briefly discuss the cooperation between India and Bangladesh on flood forecasting and warning. And finally, the joint feasibility studies that are proposed by Bangladesh on their Ganga Padma Barrage project that we will discuss. Now coming to the historical background on the formation of Joint Rivers Commission. As you all know, Bangladesh was formed as an independent nation after a war of liberation that was fought in 1971 from with with West Pakistan, and India actively aided and supported in their in this war. Then in 1972, a treaty of friendship, cooperation, and peace was signed between the then prime ministers of Bangladesh and India, that is Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and our Prime Minister Indira Gandhi that time. This treaty of friendship, cooperation, peace, Article 6 of this treaty states that the high contracting parties further agree to make joint studies and take joint action in the fields of flood control, river basin development, and development of hydroelectric power and irrigation. So, taking a cue from this Article 6, in 1972, on 24th November 1972, the India-Bangladesh Joint Rivers Commission was born. And another major event that took place during that time was in 1975 May. Padka Barrage project was commissioned by India for diverting 40,000 cubic of water towards Bhagirathi Hooghly river system from the Ganges. So this is the statute of the Indo-Bangladesh Joint Rivers Commission. The main areas, the main mandate that was given to the commission was to maintain liaison between the participating countries in order to ensure the most effective joint efforts in maximizing the benefits from common river systems to both the countries. So the joint efforts is important here. Then to formulate flood control works and to recommend implementation of joint projects. So flood control is important. To formulate detailed proposals on advanced flood warnings, flood forecasting, and cyclone warnings. Then to study flood control and irrigation projects so that the water resources of the region can be utilized on an equitable basis for the mutual benefit of the peoples of the two countries. This was the mandate that was given to our Joint Rivers Commission. The Joint Rivers Commission since 1972 till this year, it has convened 38 meetings. The first 13 meetings, that is up to 1975, were headed by secretaries of the two countries. From 14th meeting onwards, that is from 1970 onwards, it was upgraded to the level of minister, and that is continuing even today. The JRC meeting are chaired and co-chaired by honorable ministers of the two countries. The last meeting, that is 38th meeting, was held on 25th August 2022 at New Delhi, and it was held after a gap of 12 long years. We will briefly discuss this issue also. Now, this entire tenure of JRC during the last 51 or 52 years or so, right from 1972, can be briefly divided into some parts like this. 1972 to 1995, the major activities or major were the commissioning of Fadaka Barrage and Tista Barrage. Tista Barrage was commissioned in 1986 by West Bengal. Then there was a agreement was also signed that was only for 5 years on the sharing of Ganga waters. That was signed in 1977. Then in 1996 to 2011, the important achievements were signing of Ganges Water Treaty in 1996, and the draft of Teesta and Feni River were also to some extent were agreed by the two countries. In 1996, Sheikh Hasina resumed power and she came to in Bangladesh. In 2011 and to 2019, this was a period where no major activities of JRC happened or took place because there was no ministerial level JRC meeting convened in this period. And after 2019 to the present, a series of MOUs, that is on Feni and Kushiara, were signed. This is the photograph taken during 38th meeting in our honorable minister and the state minister of Bangladesh and their deputy minister can be seen here. The mechanism under Joint Rivers Commission framework is having some meetings like this. Like at the highest level is the ministerial level Joint Rivers Commission meeting. It is chaired and co-chaired by water resource ministers of both the countries. Then there is a water resources secretary level meeting. It is chaired by secretary of both the countries. The last meeting was held in August 2022. Then there is a meeting of the technical committee of the JRC, that is known by the name as technical level meeting. So the technical level meeting is chaired by a member Joint River Commission of both the countries. So from our side, our Commissioner Flood Management is the member of JRC. So he heads the technical level meeting. So basically it is a technical body of JRC, and the various technical issues that are given by the JRC, they are deliberated bilaterally in detail, threadbare in this meeting. And the last ELM was held on 23rd August. Recently it was held 23rd August at New Delhi. Then there is another meeting that is known by the name Joint Committee. It is only for the monitoring and implementation of Ganges Water Treaty. So it is headed by member JRC. Then it monitors the implementation of the treaty as per its provisions. And the last 82nd meeting was held on 24th August recently. Now, both India and Bangladesh initially they identified 54 rivers that are common to them. They are common, either common flowing through the common border, or they are transboundary. So these 54 rivers, 18 are in the Ganga basin from 1 to 18 number. I will show in the map also in the subsequent slide. Then there are some rivers in the Brahmaputra basin, then some rivers in the Barak basin, and there are some rivers in the other basin also. So this map is not legible, but you can see the rivers. These are the designated by their numbers, number 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, like this, and then they are the up to 54. 54th is the Feni River. Feni River is in Tripura, and it forms a common border for around, it flows along the common border for around 90 kilometers. Now we will discuss the Ganges Water Sharing Treaty in detail that was signed in 1996. But before this, before discussing this treaty, we will also discuss slightly background of this treaty. In 1975, Fadaka Barrage was commissioned, and in 1972, the Bangladesh as a country was formed. So even the construction of Fadaka Barrage, when it started since 1961, the then Pakistan, West Pakistan, it was East Pakistan at that time. They raised some objections to the construction of this project. In 1972, when this Joint Rivers Commission was formed, then there were some a series of discussions, and after the commission of Padaka in 1975, one agreement was signed, and that agreement was only for a brief period of 5 years. That agreement was signed in 1977, and it contained 3 parts. Part A was the sharing mechanism, and part 2 was basically it was the how to augment the flows of Ganges, to identify the means and ways of augmenting the flows. And part 3 was the review. So subsequent to this agreement in 1977, one MOU was also signed between the two countries, undertaking joint studies on finding the solution for augmenting the flows. So in this case, there were 2 proposals, one proposal from Bangladesh side and one proposal was from Indian side. The proposal from Bangladesh side was basically regarding the construction of storages in Nepal, while the Indian proposal was transferring water from the Brahmaputra river by constructing a link canal, and the barrage was proposed at Jogi Gopa in Assam, and then diverting this water. A series of discussions took place during 1983-84, but the two countries could not conclude and could not come to any consensus regarding the ways of augmenting the flows of Ganges River. And finally, the JRC in its 26th meeting that was held in somewhere in 1984 it was recorded that it was not possible for Joint River Commission to make a recommendation which was acceptable to both. So this topic was left there itself, and the focus of Joint River Commission shifted to some other rivers like Tista. So with this background, now let us discuss the current treaty that was signed in 1996 between the then Prime Minister H.D. Devgowda from Indian side and Sheikh Hasina from the then Prime Minister of Bangladesh. This is the point of diversion of water for this treaty, and this is Fadakka Barrage, and this is the head regulator of the barrage. So the river Ganga flows like this, and the 40,000 cubic is diverted through this head regulator, and this water feeds our Bhagirathi Hooghly river system. After flowing for 38 kilometers, this canal, feeder canal, joins Bhagirathi river. This is a map of Ganges basin. River Ganga is an international river, and it around 26% of geographical area of our country is drained by river Ganges, and 33% of the area of Bangladesh is dependent on Ganges river. Here is the Fadaka, that is the terminal structure on this river, and after this Fadaka the river enters Bangladesh by the name as Padma. At Fadka, the Ganges bifurcates into two rivers, that is Bhagirathi, India, and Padma, Bangladesh. Let us come to this map. Here is the point Fadka, and the Ganges river is flowing into Bangladesh by Padma name, and at this Fadka, this a branch of this river named by the name of Bhagirathi. It flows towards Kolkata port through Hooghly. So what happened? It was observed that over around 200 years back, Bhagirathi was the principal arm of Ganges and used to carry the bulk of the flows. But due to some morphological changes, the Bhagirathi river progressively silted up and started receiving lesser and lesser upland flows. At the same time, Padma was receiving a majority of the flows, and the majority of the flows, that is the dry weather flows, were going towards Bangladesh. So this led to siltation of our Kolkata port, and that is why Fadka Barrage project was constructed to divert 40,000 cubic water for preservation and maintenance of Kolkata port. So Fadka Barrage project is not an irrigation or hydropower project. This is basically for diverting 40,000 cubic of water towards Kolkata port for its preservation and maintenance, and also to maintain the regime and navigability of this Bhagirathi Hooghly river system. This Bhagirathi Hooghly river is part of National Waterway 1 from Haldia to Allahabad. This is the satellite imagery of this area. This is the Fadka Barrage, and this is the feeder canal, 38.38 kilometer long, and here it joins the Bhagirathi river. And the river Ganges flows into Bangladesh by the name as Padma. The treaty has several articles, and we will discuss in detail these articles. The Article 1 states that the quantum of waters agreed to be released by India to Bangladesh will be at Fadka. So we have seen just now the point Fadka and the also the head regulator where this is the point of sharing. Article 2 states that the sharing between India and Bangladesh of the Ganga Ganges waters at Fadka by 10-day periods from 1st January to 31st May every year will be with reference to the formula at Annexure 1 and an indicative schedule giving the implications of the sharing arrangement under Annexure 1 is at Annexure 2. So this article says that during 1st January to 31st May, the sharing will happen. The sharing will happen at Fadka, and the sharing will be as per a formula. That formula is given in Annexure 1, and the implication of that Annexure 1 is given in Annexure 2. There is an indicative schedule at Annexure 2, and which is based on 40 years, that is 1949 to 1988, 10-day period average availability of water at Fadka. It also states that every effort would be made by the upper riparian, that is India, to protect flows of water at Fadka as in the 40 years average availability as mentioned above. In the event of flow at Fadka falls below 50,000 cusecs in any 10-day period, the two governments will enter into immediate consultations to make adjustments on an emergency basis in accordance with the principles of equity, fair play, and no harm to either party. So this article says that whenever the flow at Fadka falls below 50,000 cusecs, then the two governments will discuss and find a solution. But during the last 27 years, since the implementation of the treaty, such a situation has never arisen. Article 3 states that the water released to Bangladesh at Farakka under Article 1 shall not be reduced below Farakka except for the reasonable usage of waters not exceeding 200 cusecs by India between Farakka and the point of Ganga Ganges where both the banks are in Bangladesh. Article 4 states that there will be a committee that is called Joint Committee, and it will be constituted by the two countries, and it will monitor the implementation mechanism. Article 8 also states about finding a long-term solution for augmentation of the flows. Article 9 also guides to conclude treaties agreement on other common rivers, that is the other 54 rivers, to conclude treaties on these rivers. Now this joint committee is for the monitoring and implementation of the treaty. Joint committee is headed by Commissioner Flood Management, who is also the member JRC, and generally 3 meetings are held every year. The first 2 meetings are accompanied by a visit to the Joint Hydrological Observation Site at Farakka in India and Harding Bridge in Bangladesh. And the third meeting is for the finalization of the annual report. And the last 82nd, the Joint Committee meeting was held on 24th August 2023 at New Delhi. So we referred Annexure 1 in the previous slide, and the Annexure 1 gives the formula of sharing at Farakka. So the formula says that depending upon the availability of flows reaching Farakka, if the flow at Farakka is 75,000 cusecs or more, then the share of India will be 40,000, and balance of flow will be released to or will flow to Bangladesh. If the flow reaching Farakka is 70,000 to 75,000 cusecs, then the share of Bangladesh will be 35,000 cusecs, and balance of flow will be towards India. And third is, whenever the flow is below 70,000 cusecs, then both the countries will share on a 50-50% basis. But there is a condition, and the condition is that there is a sharing period, that is there is a guaranteed period, and the guaranteed period is from March 11 to May 10. And during that period, there are 3 alternate 10-day periods when every country, India and Bangladesh, will receive guaranteed 35,000 cusecs of water in alternate 10-day periods. So we'll discuss this guaranteed period in detail. This is the Annexure 2 and a part of the treaty, as mentioned in the previous slide. And this is the flow based on the 1949 to 1988, that is 40 years average availability. So during January 1 to January 10, that is the first 10-day period of January, if the flow is 1,07,516 cusecs, then the share of India will be 40,000, and balance will be going to Bangladesh. Now, this is only an indicative schedule, because the actual availability of flow at Farakka will be different from this. It will be either more than this or less than this. So this is only an indicative schedule. Now there are 3 guaranteed 10-day periods for each country. For example, March 11 to 20, 35,000 is guaranteed for Bangladesh. Then in the next 10 daily, 35,000 is guaranteed for India. Then again, in the next 10 daily, 35,000 guaranteed for Bangladesh, and in the next 10 daily, 35,000 guaranteed for India. So this goes till May 10, and the March 11 to May 10, this period is known as the guaranteed period, because this is the period when the flow at Farakka is generally between 75,000 to 60,000 or 80,000 in this range. the flow is there during this period. This is some examples I have narrated here. So, for example, in the first 10-day period of January, if the total available water at Fadaka is 76,000, then as per that Annexure 2, as per that Annexure 1, the India will retain 40,000 and balance 36,000 will be released to Bangladesh. In as a second case, suppose during first 10-day period of January, if the available water at Fadaka is 74,000, means less than 75,000, then the share of Bangladesh is 35,000 and the balance of flow is released to India, is retained by India. Suppose the flow at Fadaka reduces below 70,000. Here it is 69,000. So 50-50% will be shared. 34,500 and 34,000. But suppose this period is in guaranteed period. It is not January. If this period is during March 11 to May 10, then the guaranteed flow will be maintained and the balance in flow will go to the other country. Now, suppose during first day period of April in a year, if the total availability of water at Fadaka is 69,000, then 35,000 is released to Bangladesh because it is guaranteed period, and the balance 34,000 will be retained by India. If this period was not guaranteed, then it would have been shared in 50-50 basis. To monitor these discharges, both the countries have set up their joint teams at Fadaka and Harding Bridge during the period 1st January to 31st May. So this is as per Article 4 of the treaty. And for our Indian side, Central Water Engineering Service officers are sent on deputation in 3 batches to Harding Bridge. Similarly, Bangladesh also deputes their team at Fadaka. So both at Fadaka and at Harding Bridge, the joint observation are taking place during this period. At Fadaka, the joint observations are in both the river Ganges, that is in the downstream of Fadaka Barrage, and in feeder canal also there is one team station. This is some photographs taken during the joint observation. Now, as per Article 6 of the treaty, the joint committee shall submit to the 2 governments all data collected by it and shall also submit a yearly report to both the governments. Following submission of the reports, the 2 governments will meet at appropriate levels to decide upon such further actions as may be needed. So every year, after the conclusion of joint hydrological observations, the two countries meet in joint committee meeting, and they finalize the annual report, which contains the collected data and meetings and details about meetings and other visits. This is just the cover page of the annual report which we prepared. This is that annual report which we prepared and finalized during the last meeting held in August 2023. The annual report contains composition of joint committee, method of functioning of the joint committee, procedure for joint observation at Fadaka and Harding Bridge, the meetings, visits and reviews, and the data. So regarding data, this was the data summary of the data collected during 1st January to 31st May. So this is as per that Annexure 1 and Annexure 2. So here the actual flows are mentioned. Here are the 10 dailies, January 1 to May 31. This March 11 to May 10 is the guaranteed period. Also, asterisk is also placed here. The actual flows, and these are the share of India and Bangladesh and the actual release. In table 2, the flow that is measured at Harding Bridge is reported here. So the actual release made to Bangladesh at Farakka is mentioned here, and the flow observed at Harding Bridge is mentioned here. So during January 1 to 10, the actual release was 67,874 cubic, and the discharge received at Harding Bridge was 85,316 cubic. There is a big intervening catchment also between Farakka and Harding Bridge. So exact correlation cannot be drawn in this data. Now, Article 9 of the Ganges Water Treaty, as we just saw in the previous slide, states that the guided by the principles of equity, fairness, and to no harm to either party, both the governments agree to conclude water sharing treaties agreements with regard to other common rivers. So in this context, the 32nd meeting of the Joint River Commission that was held in 1997. Remember, in 96, Ganges Water Treaty was concluded. So thereafter, taking from this Article 9, the JRC formed a joint committee of experts, and that was headed by secretaries of water source ministries of the two governments to work out arrangements for long-term permanent sharing of the waters of the common rivers between the two countries. The priority was accorded to Teesta. Now, Joint Committee of Experts, that is also known as JC, in its first meeting, agreed to take up 7 rivers, that is Teesta, Manu, Khowai, Gumti, Dharla, Dudhkumar, in the first phase. And the priority was accorded to Teesta because that was the guidance from the highest body, that was the JRC. Later on in 2005, Feni River was also added to this prioritized list. So now, as on date, we have 54 common border rivers. Out of 54 rivers, treaty was signed on Ganges River in 1996, and thereafter, 8 rivers have been taken on priority. And the priority was given to, and among those 8 rivers also, the top priority was given to Teesta in 1997. So the JCE was mandated to work out the sharing arrangement, etc. This is a satellite imagery of the 5 rivers of Tripura, and here the Feni River, this Muhuri River, this Gumti, just to give an idea how where these rivers are located. Gumti, then Khowai, then this is Manu, and this is Tripura, part of our Indian state. 2 rivers of these prioritized 8 rivers are Torsa, that is Dharla. This is also known by the name Dharla, and Jaldhaka, and this is known by the name Dudhkumar in Bangladesh. So these are the tributaries of Brahmaputra. This is I think Torsa, and this is Torsa, and this is Jaldhaka, and this is Teesta. Now we will discuss the Teesta River in detail. This is the catchment area shape of the Teesta River. It has a catchment area of 12,729 square kilometer. 87% of this lies in India, and only 13% lies in Bangladesh. In 1983 also, the two countries reached on an ad hoc agreement on sharing. And this was only ad hoc, it was not implemented. There is only a brief mention in the JRC records that they share, that is 39% for India, 36% for Bangladesh, and 25% was unallocated, pending the joint scientific studies. Now, this joint committee of experts that was formed in 1997, it was given the task to finalize DoWR of the joint scientific study on the availability and requirement of Tista waters in both countries. So as you know, the availability of water and the requirement, these are the key components in drawing up any draft of river water sharing agreement. So for this purpose, the joint committee of experts held 7 meetings during 1997 to 2004, but they could not finalize the terms of reference of the joint scientific study. Then the JC gave this mandate to joint technical group. Another group was formed, that is joint technical group, and it held 4 meetings during 2004 to 2005, but this group also could not conclude the or finalize the terms of reference of the joint scientific studies. The differences of opinion during that period between the two countries were regarding the following points, like what should be the study area, like Bangladesh. In Bangladesh, they are claiming the Tista dependent area differently, and according to India, the 87% of the catchment area lies in India and only 13% in Bangladesh. But Bangladesh claims that the Tista dependent area is more in their territory. Then whether groundwater should also be taken into account along with surface water. This was also one area where both the countries differed, where Bangladesh was of the opinion that only surface water should be taken into consideration, while India's point was that groundwater should also be taken into account along with surface water. Regarding the requirement of water in both the countries, there were also differences. Like Bangladesh said that navigational and fisheries and wildlife, this should also be given priority. Notwithstanding the above differences of opinion, in 2009, Sheikh Hasina again became Prime Minister in Bangladesh. She came to their party, Awami League came to power. And as you know, Awami League, the party is our having friendly relations with our country. So in 2009 to 2010, 2011, lot of
आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही है।
Sambariya, Sambariya, your voice.
समरिया सर, आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही है।
is it audible now?
Yes, audible.
Yes.
Am I audible now?
Yes, yes.
Audible.
Okay. So in 2009, we just discussed about the differences of opinion with the two countries on regarding the availability and requirement of water on Tista. The Indian side started technically studying the availability from different angles, and during 2-3 years, we had a lot of bilateral meetings with Bangladesh, and the data that was used for calculating the water availability was based on 1973 to 1985 data. We know that at Gajaldova, barrage in Indian state, the data is not available, discharge data. The Central Water Commission is having the discharge data site at Domohani, that is in the downstream of Gajaldova barrage. Similarly, Bangladesh is having their barrage at Dalia, which is around 15 kilometer in the downstream of border. So Bangladesh is reluctant to share the other data that they are collecting at Konya and Tistamu, but they are not sharing with Indian state because that data is closely guarded. So based on that data, the extrapolated figures were arrived at Gajaldova, and our Indian team somehow concluded technically that base flow and the the flow from the intermittent catchment between the two barrages, that is Sava and Daria, around 26% of the base flow is more at Dalia. However, Bangladesh was not agreeing to this, but somehow bilaterally we discussed, we debated, and somehow we reached to a draft agreement that was there in 2011 based on these calculations. But Bangladesh,
Hello.
hello, am I audible?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, okay. So somehow we could at secretary level meeting that was in January 2011, a draft framework document for the sharing of river Tista and Feni was agreed upon. In Feni, we do not have any hydrological observation site. Only very recently we have opened. So whatever the availability figures, they have been reached upon by this rainfall runoff relation, and around it was around 120 cubic of water can be shared. So the draft was framed for sharing 60 cubic each. However, these two drafts that were prepared in 2011 were not implemented, and thereafter there was a deadlock. So no JRC meetings took place after 2011, and only it started in 2022. Now, at the intervention of by the intervention of MEA during the 5th Joint Consultative Commission meeting that was organized by MEA and was held in 2019. So our external affairs minister, they insisted that instead of linking everything with Tista, we can move forward on water sharing agreement on Feni and some other rivers. And the discussions resumed, and recently we signed 2 MOUs, one on Feni River and one on Kushiara River. This is the MOU in the presence of the 2 prime ministers on Feni River. Feni River, the MOU is only for a small quantity, that is only around 1.82 cubic of water, and it is for a drinking water supply scheme for our Sabrum town in Tripura. So only India is to benefit from this MOU. But in this case also, the MOU has been signed, but its implementation is taking place. There are some slow progress in this because as per the MOU, the intake well of this drinking water supply scheme has to be finalized jointly. So in 2022 also, the local level technical committee of the 2 countries, they undertook a visit in 2022, and they finalized a location of intake well, which was slightly away from the Feni River course. Now, Tripura state did not agree to this location, citing that some siltation or erosion related issues might crop up during the O&M of the intake well. So they wanted to bring the intake well on the Feni River course. You will see this in the subsequent slide. Again, a joint site visit of the technical committee of the two countries took place in 23. The Indian side handed over our proposal, and the concurrence from Bangladesh side is still awaited. This MOU would get subsumed in the treaty or agreement whenever it comes up, the final agreement or final treaty on the Feni River. Whenever it comes up, this MOU will become part of it. This is the intake well. This is the intake well shown on the Feni River. Our proposal is that we want to place it somewhere in the middle of the river, and Bangladesh wants to shift it to the edge of the river. These are some small contentions between the two teams. However, hopefully these will be resolved soon. This is the location. This is the Feni River, and this is the Maitri Setu, and this is the location of that intake well on the edge. Then in 2022, the MOU on Kushiara River was signed in the presence of two prime ministers. Kushiara River is the MOU was the priority from Bangladesh side, and they have been seeking the consent of India for allowing them to withdraw water from the common stretch of border river Kushiara through an intake channel that is also known as Rahimpur Khal for their proposed irrigation and flood control project, that is Upper Surma Kushiara project. So Bangladesh has planned this project for the irrigation of about 5,000 hectares of area in their territory. So as per the request of Bangladesh, this MOU was signed, and it will be there. This MOU will be there in force, like the Feni River MOU, which will become part of the future treaty or future agreement. Now we do not have, as of now, any planned utilization or scheme for the utilizing for future use. State government of Assam has been directed to set up the necessary infrastructure in their state for withdrawal and utilization of up to 153 cusecs of water. The period of implementation of this MOU is the dry season of a year, that is 1st November to 31st May. As per the provision of this MOU, a joint monitoring team, that is JMT, comprising the chief engineers of both the countries and other members like representatives from Border Guard Bangladesh and Border Security Force, has been proposed to set up. And in this context, DoWR, RDNGR has already set up the joint monitoring team. This JMT will finalize the capacity of pumps, intake point, channel, civil structures for withdrawing water from the Kushiara River and recommend associated riverbank protection works. The first meeting of the GMT was held on 24 June 23 at Karimganj in Assam. And during the meeting, Indian side requested the Bangladesh side for design details of the pump house, DPR of their project, etc. This is the area of interest, Barak River, and at the border, this place, the name of the place is Tamal Shit. It bifurcates into two rivers, that is Surma and then Kushiara. This is a line diagram of the area. This is the project area, that is Upper Surma Kushiara project of Bangladesh. This is the project area. This is that Rahimpur Khal, that channel through which they have put up a pump house and an intake from where they will withdraw. However, this Rahimpur Khal is yet to be linked to the Kushiara River. Then, and the joint monitoring team is given the mandate to inspect, visit, finalize the capacity of pumps, the channel, etc. Now we have another area of cooperation, that is flood forecasting and warning. And this arrangement has been existing since 1972, since the formation of Joint Rivers Commission, wherein the flood related data of identified stations on transboundary rivers is transmitted to Bangladesh during flood season. This arrangement has been reviewed and expanded in the past, and after the floods of 2000 in Bangladesh, an Indo-Bangladesh experts level committee on flood forecasting and warning, it was formed, and it gave its recommendations. So earlier, only whenever the flood forecast is generated, then the flood data was used to be transmitted to Bangladesh. But thereafter, we started transmitting the data on a continuous basis. Then in 2010, the Sahibganj station on Ganges River was also added to the list of stations. In 2022, the designated flood period of data transmission was expanded beyond 15th October to and up to 31st October every year. Now the designated flood period during which the data is transmitted for flood forecasting warning is from 1st May to 31st October every year. And very recently in 2023, as per the directions of High Commissioner of India, Dhaka, a WhatsApp group of concerned officers has also been set up as an additional mode of seamless flood data transmission. Apart from the above, the hourly data of all stations is also available online on real-time basis in the dedicated websites available in public, which are available in public domain, and they are maintained by Central Water Commission. So this can also be utilized by Bangladesh for any modeling purpose in their models. CWC also provides 7 days flood advisory based on rainfall forecast issued by the IMD, and it is also available in public domain, and it can also be utilized by Bangladesh for any modeling purpose. These are the stations through which the flood forecast or flood data is transmitted to Bangladesh side. And this is the existing format wherein the identified stations, rivers, Brahmaputra, Barak, Manu, Gumti, Tista, Jaldhaka, Torsa, Mahananda, and Ganga, and the identified stations and the identified flood period and the the mode of transmission, whether it is email or wireless. Basically, mostly it is by email, but at some station there is also point-to-point data transmission through wireless. Also, discharge at 3 stations, that is Pandu on Brahmaputra, Damohani on Tista, and Farakka. The discharge data is also transmitted at and at all other stations, the 3 hourly water level is and forecast level is transmitted. So flood data is shared with Bangladesh through the following email IDs. Finally, a joint technical committee, 20 member, that is 10 members from Indian side and 10 members from Bangladesh side, has been constituted in 2019 for conducting the joint feasibility study of the Ganges Padma Barrage project of Bangladesh and for other alternative options. This is for the optimum utilization of the waters received by Bangladesh as per the provisions of Ganges Water Sharing Treaty. So an initial exchange of the draft terms of reference of this proposed feasibility study has been undertaken between the two countries, which are to be finalized in a joint technical committee meeting. This is the view of the their proposed Ganges Ganges Padma Barrage project. This location is around 180 kilometer on Ganges River in the downstream of Padka Barrage. But presently, this project has been withdrawn by Bangladesh, and they now propose to form some make some other alternative options for the utilization of Ganges water, for the optimum utilization of Ganges water received by them. For this purpose, the Joint Technical Committee of the two countries has been set up, and the terms of reference of the joint feasibility study will be finalized, and the feasibility studies will be jointly studied, and then further course of action will be taken. So this is all from my side. Now the forum is open for discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Sambariya sir. Now, floor is open for question answer session. If you have any doubt, any question, you can kindly write down in chat box, or you can ask directly to speaker.
संबारिया जी, मेरी आवाज आ रही है?
Yes, 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 yes. Sir.
संबारिया जी, मैं चास्कर बोल रहा हूँ, चीफ इंजीनियर है।
Yes, sir.
नमस्कार,
Yes, sir.
Actually, मेरा first of all, congratulations on giving a very nice presentation on Indo-Bangladesh cooperation in water sector. But my question is, when you was talking about the Feni River water sharing MOU and the location of the river intake, the river is flowing in the Indian, Indian land, and why we need concurrence of Bangladesh for the location of the intake?
Yes, yes. Your question is valid. Actually, when the Feni River flows along the border for a considerable distance,
right?
And you have rightly pointed out that the location of intake well is in our Indian territory.
Right.
But there is a guideline, there is a principle that whenever any developmental works are taken up on the within 150 yards of the boundary line, then they have to be discussed, deliberated bilaterally in consultation with the security forces. So that this is within the 150 yards. That is the reason.
Achha, this principle is not specific to the water resources. It is applicable for any intervention. I mean, it's
sir, it is any developmental works. Any developmental work.
Okay. All right. So this location is within that zone.
Within that.
Within that zone. That's why we require the increments. Okay. Thank you.
This is also one reason. Other reason is that because the Feni River, it forms the border. Sometimes it goes towards our Indian side, and sometimes it enters the Bangladesh side. Right. But the sharing or any sharing mechanism has to be in concurrence with the Bangladesh side. This is also the reason.
Okay. Thank you. And what is the? I mean, just this thing. The catchment area of Feni River is mostly in India, upstream of this location.
Yeah. Catchment area is mostly in India, and recently our CWC has set up a station in HO station in the Indian territory.
Okay.
Very recently.
And the amount of water that we have sought for diversion, 1.82 cubic.
That is very small, and this is only for the drinking water
purpose.
Drinking water.
So how much is it is in percentage of the total flow?
So, as I said, the available flow in Feni is not much. Like in 2011, the draft agreement, we proposed for sharing 60 cubic each country. So 60 cubic by India, 60 cubic by Bangladesh.
Okay.
So in that context, you can see that was the lean season flow.
Okay. So 120 cubic is about the is lean seasons.
Yeah.
So there's a very minuscule amount that we have.
Minuscule amount, but this drinking water MOU is for the whole year. Okay. Not only lean, it is for the whole year. Unlike Kushiara, that was only for a limited. That was only for the dry period.
Okay, thank you, Sambariya, and once again, congratulations on delivering a very good lecture.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any more questions, please? Any more questions? Sir, there is one question. Ganga Water Treaty is set to expire in 2026. What challenges may India face during the renew, negotiation, deliberation with Bangladesh in this regard?
Yeah, you have rightly said that the treaty was signed for a period of 30 years, and there is a provision in the treaty that it can be extended on the mutual consent also. But our Indian side has constituted a committee for the internal review. We are internally reviewing it. Bangladesh is also having concern regarding this, but bilaterally, either in JRC or in joint committee meetings, they have not discussed. They have raised their concerns so far, but internally from our Indian side, we are preparing to review this treaty. So for that purpose, a committee under the chairmanship of member DNR is working on it. We have analyzed Water with the help of Water Commission the data that we have collected from 97 onwards till 19 till 2022 till last year, and these are only preliminary observations that the availability of flow during lean period has slightly improved, maybe because of the return flows, in some 10 daily periods. These are the preliminary observations. So the strategies and our concerns will be taken care of by that committee. So it will not be appropriate for me to discuss that thing, because those deliberations are confidential.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Sambariya sir, this is Advocate Siddiqui this side. Namaskar.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Thank you for your presentation. It was very informative and detailed. My questions are not from the technical perspective, but more from the larger interpretation point of view. But one factual question very quickly. In your list of 54 rivers, I could not notice Meghna. Does it appear by any other name?
Actually, Meghna, the name Meghna, let us come to that slide again. So you see here, there is one river that is Barak.
Okay.
Barak river bifurcates into two parts, Surma and Kushiara.
Yes.
And this Barak river, from our side, after meeting this Brahmaputra and Padma, this becomes Meghna. Actually, the GBM, that is Ganga, Brahmaputra, Meghna, is a larger basin. And when this Ganges, that is Padma, this meets Brahmaputra, that is known by the name Jamna. And when all these rivers that they make this Meghna.
Okay. So Indian side, we have Barak, and maybe after the confluence, then it is Meghna on the Bangladesh side.
Barak is forming into Meghna. But finally, Meghna captures the waters of all this entire basin.
Okay.
This is only a nomenclature. Yes.
Thank you. So my second.
Bangladesh.
Second.
Meghna in Bangladesh.
Can you repeat?
Meghna Bangladesh में है.
Yes.
So my second question is, there is you must be aware there is a 2011 framework agreement between India and Bangladesh.
Yes.
Now that agreement has been very proactive in terms of pushing at least the transport side.
Yes.
So the multimodal transport and the navigational connectivity, especially in the northeastern part. Now that framework agreement also has a clause, very specific clause that says common basin management, which is not a term which we have seen historically in any of the agreements or treaties between India and Bangladesh starting 1972.
Yes.
So that's a very distinct kind of a commitment under that larger agreement. And then it also creates a separate institution called Joint Consultative Commission. Now, what one would like to know from you, sir, is how does the two frameworks connect as of now, and then looking at futuristically, and when you are looking at the future framework in terms of post 2027 Ganga Treaty, will you be considering this commitment at all?
Yeah, I got your point. See, this framework of 2011 encompasses the entire gamut of cooperation to be made through the two countries, not only water.
Yes, yes.
That is one thing.
Right.
Secondly, in pursuance of that 2011 framework, the MEA has set up their joint consultative commission. So that is JCC. So around, I think, 7 and in that JCC deliberates on all activities of cooperation pertaining to all the ministries department of the two countries. Now, Joint River Commission is only catering to the water sector. Now you have mentioned about there is a mention of common basin management in that 2011 framework. You have rightly said, and Bangladesh also during bilateral discussions, sidelines of the discussion, also speaks about the common basin management. But strategically, we have tried, or we have tried to avoid bringing the common basin management into the bilateral, into the written RODs or bilateral discussions, because you remember in the initial slides of the presentation, when I narrated the augmentation of Ganges flows, that was during 70s or during 80s, Bangladesh wanted to have bring Nepal also into the picture for the creation of the storages. So it is in their interest, it is in their larger interest to have the idea of common basin management. So whenever they meet and they discuss with us, they try to include the word common basin management. But the mandate of JRC, if you remember in our mandate of JRC, unlike yeah. So in our mandate of the Joint Rivers Commission, we have been talking about joint efforts, joint discussions, joint actions, joint and only bilateral, not to include a third party. This is unlike the PIC, that is a Permanent Interest Commission, wherein whenever the things go beyond the two countries, a neutral expert or third party or World Bank has been mentioned. But in our Joint Rivers Commission, there is no mention of these things. Only bilaterally we have to discuss, bilaterally we have to deliberate on the common issues. And it is also in our larger interest, because the GBM, Ganges Brahmaputra Meghna Basin, is covers your Nepal, Bhutan, China, Bangladesh, India, and the interests of the countries are every country is having their different interests. So I think we should refrain from using the word common basin management. We should uh, uh, only try to have bilateral dialogues and bilateral discussions.
Right. Thank you. Very comprehensive, sir. Thank
I
you so
hope
much.
I'm able to explain.
Yes, yes, yes. Very succinctly and very directly. And
Okay.
maybe perhaps the final small question is that we had come across, I mean, as practitioners, one version of Tista MOU of 1985. But my understanding of that is that it was part of the minutes of the meeting, which is different from having a very separate bilateral document. So as of now, is it the case that we are still going by the minutes of the meeting, MOU as part of the minutes of the meeting, or there's an independent exercise to conceive a very separate instrument for TISTA?
Yeah. Okay. So as you know, the sharing arrangement needs a structure for sharing.
Right.
Flowing river cannot be shared like this. We have to construct a structure. Okay. So in 1986, Teesta Barrage was constructed. 1986. It was commissioned. And this MOU, there is no such MOU that I have come across in the documents available with our office. Only there is a brief mention of the sharing the shares of India and Bangladesh, that is 39%, 36%, and 25%. In one of the record of discussion of the Joint River Commission, probably in my opinion, it may be because at the same time Bangladesh was also constructing their Dalia Barrage, and probably to assure or to ensure funds from the funding agencies, they might have bilaterally agreed upon or pursued India to at least write something in the discussion so that their share is ensured. But that after that mentioning of that share, there is no mention of any MOU, any treaty, any agreement after that. Only the 2011 draft agreement, that is also not finalized. That is there. Siddiqui sir, am I able to explain?
Yes, yes. Thank you for that answer. Thank you so much, sir. All three questions explained very satisfactorily. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. There is one question in chat box. Since in your slide you have mentioned JRC have not met since 2011, what factors do you think could strengthen transboundary Indo-Bangladesh institutions?
Yeah, after the Teesta and Feni deadlock, because the JRC is at the highest level. The JRC is headed by the honorable ministers of the two countries. So there has to be some deliverable agenda, deliverable point to meet. So in my opinion, because that deliverable point was not there, so it could not meet. But in 2019, as I mentioned, the Awami League government of Sheikh Hasina came back to power again. So again, now the discussions have, or the deliberations at JRC level, secretary level, technical level meeting, they are smoothly continuing as they were previously. So I think now there is no such issue. We have signed 2 MOUs also, one Feni and in 2022 on Kushiara. So, and also in 2027 we are going to renew our treaty also. So a lot of bilateral cooperation discussions is going to take place in the coming future.
Thank you.
Hope that will be sufficient.
Yes. Any more questions, please?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, welcome.
Then we will conclude this session. on behalf of National Water Academy, Central Water Commission, Pune, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to all esteemed participants, speakers, and attendees for joining this webinar session on international water cooperation in India. We are extremely grateful to our distinguished speaker, Shri Sambariya ji, for sparing his precious time and sharing his extensive knowledge and experience with us. I would like to extend a special word of thanks to Secretary Madam, DoWR RD and GR, Shri Kushvinder Vora sir, Chairman and ex-officio Secretary to the Government of India, Shri D.H. Chaskar sir, Chief Engineer and Head of National Water Academy, Central Water Commission, Pune, who are driving force behind the various activities of NWA, along with the generous support and guidance, making NWA to venture ahead. Last but certainly not least, I would like to thanks to our dedicated team at National Water Academy, Pune, for support staff who work tirelessly behind the scene to ensure the seamless education of this webinar. Their efforts and meticulous planning have contributed to the success of this webinar session. Thank you once again.